Hi, I'm Isabella. I am in my mid-20s and I'm absolutely crashing my way through life at the moment. I don't know, I guess in the past couple of years it's been kind of hard to feel optimistic and hopeful about life when there's so much BS going on in the world. But then this past weekend I actually went to one of my best friend's weddings and it was just so full of festivity and celebration and romance and love and joy, and I was like, you know what, I have to remind myself that there are such amazing moments in life too, and by focusing my attention on that, it reminds me that the glass is half full and half empty at the same time. You know, there's still things to be enjoyed in a world that seems to be destroying itself. I don't know if that's really intense for an intro. I just wanted to make a video about a poet that I've admired for a few years now, and her perception of the world changed the way that I perceive the world, and she might even change the way that you perceive the world too. And that poet is the award-winning American poet Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver's poetry tends to focus on nature, and I find that when I read her poetry, I slow down a lot more, I observe my environment a lot more, and I feel much more connected to my soul. I know that she's had a tougher childhood when she was growing up, and writing was a way for her to escape. And by doing so, I think it probably pushed her to observe the natural world a lot more, and I appreciate her for that because in turn I appreciate the natural world a lot more too. Here are 5 Mary Oliver poems that I'll be reading from her book Devotions. She published this, I believe, shortly before her death in 2019. This is a collection of her poetry since maybe the 1940s? Actually, I don't even know. As it turns out, I was way off. It's not from the 40s. She started writing poetry, or at least publishing poetry, from 1963, and then the last poem in here is from 2015, so scratch that, not the 40s. I'd like to start off by reading Invitation. Oh, do you have time to linger for just a little while out of your busy and very important day, for the goldfinches that have gathered in a field of thistles, for a musical battle to see who can sing the highest note or the lowest, or the most expressive of mirth, or the most tender? Their strong, blunt beaks drink the air as they strive melodiously, not for your sake and not for mine, and not for the sake of winning, but for sheer delight and gratitude. Believe us, they say, it is a serious thing just to be alive on this fresh morning in this broken world. I beg of you, do not walk by without pausing to attend this rather ridiculous performance. It could mean something, it could mean everything. It could be what Rilke meant when he wrote, "You must change your life." The part that stood out to me the most, and the part that I always have repeating in my head ever since I was I don't know, maybe 19 or 20, I saw this and it changed the way that I thought. And it was the part where it says, "It is a serious thing just to be alive on this fresh morning in this broken world." And it's so true. It is a very serious thing just to be alive, no matter what the state of the world is. The next poem I'd like to read by Mary Oliver is called Wild Geese, and this is one of her more famous poems. It's pretty popular. You might have seen it floating around on social media, and it's absolutely incredible. And it goes, "You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile the world goes on. Meanwhile the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things." There are a few lines in here that I love. "You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting." So good. Oh my gosh. The next one is called The Journey. This is another poem that meant a lot to me when I was in university because I really needed it at the time when I felt very, very lost within myself. And it goes, "One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. 'Mend my life,' each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible, it was already late enough and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. When I read this poem, like, I love the imagery of this poem because it's just so vivid in my mind. Like, I just imagine being on a little boat sailing away, feeling the wind in your hair, and there's like a starry night in front of you. Like, that's what I envision when I read this poem, and it just feels so, I don't know, I just feel so connected to it, and I feel connected to myself when I read it. Speaking of imagery, I thought this poem did it really well, and that is sleeping in the forest. I thought the earth remembered me. She took me back so tenderly, arranging her dark skirts, her pockets full of lichens and seeds. I slept as never before, a stone on the riverbed, nothing between me and the white fire of the stars but my thoughts, and they floated, light as moths among the branches of the perfect trees. All night I heard the small kingdoms breathing around me, the insects and the birds who do their work in the darkness. All night I rose and fell as if in water, grappling with the luminous doom. By morning, I had vanished at least a dozen times into something better. I love the imagery of I heard the small kingdoms breathing around me, the insects and the birds who do their work in the darkness. It's like there's so many little lives in our very big life. It's like we're so concerned with our very big world right now, but in comparison, I guess, to the many stars and galaxies out there, and compared to all the kingdoms of insects, as Mary Oliver put it, we're just one world of many, and sometimes it's nice to remember that. The last poem I'd like to read, which I think is the most uplifting and optimistic one out of all the poems I've read so far, is called Why I Wake Early. Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who make the morning and spread it over the fields and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories and into the windows of even the miserable and the crotchety. Best preacher that ever was, dear star that just happens to be where you are in the universe, to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, and to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in happiness and kindness. I just thought that was a very sweet love letter to the sun. But yeah, that is a selection. 5 out of like the hundreds of poems that are in this book. I still haven't gotten through the entire book yet, by the way. There's probably still so many poems in there that I could have put in this video, but I just haven't happened to read it yet, so I haven't done that. But I highly recommend this book, Devotions. It's a great collection, and if you haven't read Mary Oliver yet, I hope that this inspires you to read her more. Anyway, it is a beautiful summer day. My birthday is coming up soon, and I'm trying very hard not to freak out about it and trying to enjoy being the age that I am, and I guess reminding myself how lucky I am to even be able to get to that age and to still be here and have love in my life. And yeah, I don't want to be too corny about this. I really don't want to be too corny or too cheesy, but sometimes you need the cheese. Anyway, thank you for taking the time out of your day to read these poems with me, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!